After the disastrous defeat at the hands of the Imperials, the Council had to develop a different approach to the other human nations of the Old World. In their desire to follow up with the unbelievable success of the Black Plague, at least until it malfunctioned, the Council tried to use a more subtle method when taking on their next victims. Using Clan Eshin operatives, the Skaven were the instigators for several wars that had erupted during the century, including the invasion of Jafar, the Crusades, and the Wars of Errantry. These Crusades and different wars are all mentioned in my History of Bretonnia series as well, so there's a slight bit of overlap about to happen here, but if you would like to know any more detail, please, there's the History of Bretonnia series. Though successful in their plot, the wars didn't give the Skaven army any lasting victories that would turn the fortune of the Under-Empire like before. It was when Clan Eshin failed that Clan Pestilence gained the influence to persuade the Council members to unleash another plague upon the nation of Bretonnia. Using the same method used against the Empire, the Skaven unleashed the Red Pox upon the sewer networks of the city of Bordelot. The scourge was once more successful, and nearly a third of the populace was infected and killed, but the Baron Discard de Pont acted quickly and ordered the poor quarter of the city to be set to the torch, killing both innocent people and the vast majority of the infected populace. Although this was brutal, he did save the city, and I would call him a hero for that. However, this was just a little beta test, and a quarter of a century later, a full assault was launched by the Skaven, and nearly all of Bretonnia and southern Tilea blossomed with a virulent outbreak of the Red Pox. As the nightmare that unfolded within the Empire once more repeated itself, whole swathes of countryside was lost, with the cities of Brionne and Quesnel soon fighting for their lives against the verminous hordes of the Skaven Empire. It seemed that this time that the Under-Empire would triumph, but fate was an ill will towards the Rat-Men, and once more their glorious victory was taken away from them. A combined army, led by Duke de Paravon and the Wood Elves of Athaloran, arrived just in time to stop the Skaven. They had realised that they would be next in the firing line if Bretonnia fell, and sallied out from Athaloran to help them. With their combined might, they managed to break the siege of both cities, and upon the Battle of Remarch, the Skaven armies were broken, and finally massacred by the timely charge of the Bretonnian knights. The strings of fate had once more intertwined, and so another attempt to subjugate the Man-Things under the Iron Claw rule of the Skaven race had ended in shame and paw-pointing. The Skaven are indeed an unlucky race for all their power, and because of their nature, they do not deal with setbacks rather well. Of course, outraged by these two momentous defeats, the council members once more blamed Clan Pestilence for the disastrous loss of both money and prestige, and demanded that the Plague Lords be cast out of the Council of 13 for their incompetence. After months of tense political maneuvering, blackmail, threats, bribery and assassinations, a vote on this matter was ordered by the other council members. Rather than be cast out like the vermin they were, the Plague Lords preferred to fight to maintain their prestigious position and plotted to instigate a revolt against the entire council. On the day of the vote, the Plague Lords rose up from their seats and accused the other council members.
Heretics! Unbelievers of the true intentions of the Horned Rat!
With this one horrific outburst, Clan Pestilence renewed the titanic conflict between them and the Council of 13, creating the Second Skaven Civil War. Several warlord clans rose up with them, and fighting eventually ensued between the albino Storm of Ermine guards of the Temple of the Horned Rat and the Plague Monks of Clan Pestilence, plus their swarms of clan rats. Anarchy ruled the streets of Skavenblight as different factions vied for control of the city. Clan Skryre, having long foreseen such an uprising from the heretical monks, who were always independent in their mindset, feeling above the rest of the Skaven in their pious devotion to the Horned Rat, began their own offence against Clan Pestilence. Using their own powerful war machines and advanced weaponry, the Warlock Engineers began raising fortifications and defences all around the Grand Temple. Ikit Claw, one of the Under-Empire's most promising Warlock Engineers, took command of the forces stationed within the ruins of Skavenblight, and was promoted by his superiors to the rank of Chief Warlock, ostensibly to ensure order within the city. Within weeks, Clan Skryre took precautions to stop any Clan Pestilence troops from making their way into the temple. Clan Skryre stationed their highly trained Jezil sniper teams up on the sacred bell tower to provide covering fire, while the Warlock Engineers stationed diabolical war machines of all kinds at every entrance leading to the temple. Unable to overcome such defences, the Clan Pestilence armies were repulsed from every one of their assaults, giving Lord Morskitar, Lord Warlock Engineer, the status and prestige he needed to officially declare himself ruler of all of Skavenblight. With his new supposed leadership, Lord Morskitar planned to re-establish the council beneath his tyrannical rule. However, even his ingenious mind could not stop the infighting from spreading all over the Under-Empire, as dozens of factions began to rise to prominence and take advantage of this anarchy, all smelling the higher things that they could gain with violence on the winds of change. And so it went for 400 years once more. Dozens of factions rose and fell during the course of this age, with the war being marked by constant shifting of allegiance and loyalty. A war that only further amused their selfish and vile god, the Horned Rat. Truly not favouring one side over the other, really, just enjoying the chaos created by this conflict. The most powerful factions during the Civil War were the three great Skaven clans, along with several allied clans that supported their cause. Clan Moulder, Clan Skryre and Clan Pestilence all headed their own great factions within the Under-Empire, whilst Clan Eshin remained neutral, in order for them to profit from the constant infighting, hiring out their deadly expertise to the highest bidder. It was during the war that Clan Skryre re-established their main stronghold within the confines of Skavenblight. In time, Clan Skryre assembled a mighty force of infernal devices and engines of destruction on a scale never before seen. It was with this gathering of newly developed apparatus that Chief Warlock Ikit Claw detected a strange rising of dark magical energies emanating from the far north. Dark omens abounded throughout the world as Morslib, the Chaos Moon, hung low towards the earth, and showers of warpstone meteorites rained from the skies. Dark energies swept once more from the north, as the largest Chaos army ever assembled at that age and time gathered for the great slaughter that would engulf the lands of the Empire. This great host had been amassing in the lands to the north of the Chaos Wastes for who knows how long, as in the Chaos Wastes, the gods warp the very nature of space and time in such a way that time becomes almost meaningless. Known to only a few within the Under-Empire, a great event was coming, and only Lord Morskitar was well prepared for the great ritual that the Grey Seers were plotting to unleash. The Grey Seers visited every Skaven stronghold up and down the Underway, and gave a single ultimatum.
Be it the annual feast of Vermintide, or suffer the wrath of the Great Horned Rat. The choice is yours.
The Grey Seers knew that this pitiful war must end, otherwise the dreams of world domination that the Horned Rat has both gifted and demanded from his children would never be fulfilled. And so, the Grey Seers were to invoke a spell that would bring the Under-Empire to its knees in servitude towards the one true ruler of all of Skavendom. Soon, entire clans made their way towards the great ceremony, while others, fearful of a trap, sent representatives of their clan to the gathering. But none dared stay away altogether, for fear of their merciless god's wrath. For only the second time in their entire history, a member from each clan gathered at the footsteps of the Temple of the Horned Rat to bear witness to the great ritual that was being performed. An atmosphere of fearful expectation could be smelt upon the assembled masses as the temple doors swung open and the full order of 169 Grey Seers filed out. Seer Lord Christislik was the last of the 13 13s to step out, and with him he carried a skin-bound book. As he spoke, leading the incantation, the very air seemed to twist, and a distant, ominous crackling could be heard as the grand ritual began to take shape. The Grey Seers picked up the chant and amplified their lord's voice. The intensity rose as they began the sacrifices. One by one, 169 slaves died in increasing agony, with the last one dying to the torments of the Seer Lord himself. Their squeals of fear and pain reached out to the very bowels of creation, where the horned rat gnawed at the roots of reason. The great bell tolled as the brooding skies began to darken with chains of lightning lashing out to illuminate the dreadful scene. Again and again rang the unholy bell, so impossibly loud that it drowned out the sounds of chanting and thunder alike. At the 13th toll, the bell stopped, and an eerie silence filled the whole city. In the sudden silence, the great Seer Lord opened his jaw and screeched as a massive cloud of vapour rose up and engulfed the very sky in its darkness. A titanic claw reached out of the void and ripped apart the very curtains of reality, and there he sat, with his skin blacker than black, and two blood-red eyes as wide as castle gates. The great horned one stared out onto the teeming masses of his own children. All in that city knew who they were staring at, and all knew that they were nothing but servants to their one and true leader. As one, the Skaven hordes fell prostrated, pressing their muzzles hard into the cool stone, with some dropping dead from the dreadful sight. It was then that the titanic hand, once more ripped through reality, reached out and scooped up a score of squealing Skaven. As his hand retreated, a score of massive yellow-fanged teeth flashed in the dark gloom as the great horned rat consumed them whole. After this feast, the horned one gazed out over his quailing children, and reached out again and again. It was only after his final feasting that he withdrew his paw, and revealed to his children a gift. There, standing at the very centre of the hordes, laid a glowing pillar of the purest warpstone, with 13 sides, each marked by 13 blocks of glowing runes. These runes contained an unholy verminous commandment of ruination and the dictates of rulership, along with the prophecies of the Great Ascendancy. When their lord and god whispered to the assembled horde with the voice of 1,000,000 scratching and gnawing rats, his dreaded voice spoke, and told them that their pitiful wars amused him greatly, but this quarrelling had to cease. He demanded that the Skaven must spread their corruption in order for the Skaven race to inherit the world, and assure his full return. He demanded the reformation of the Council of 13, and swore that all must obey their commands or feel his eternal wrath. Only his favoured could touch the sacred pillar, and thus only the chosen ones could join the great council. With his final commandments, the horned one retreated back into the netherworld, with the crack within the fabric of reality narrowing and sealing behind him, until finally all was silent. Their god was gone, and the horde stood silent and fearful. The musk of fear hung heavy over the survivors as they blinked at the black pillar and reassured themselves that the Great Horned One had really been there and really was gone. Fear still gripped the teeming masses as they stared at the unholy sight, but to each of the Lords of Skavenblight they knew that they must touch the pillar in order for their ascendancy towards the council to be assured. Lord Rakin was the first to touch the pillar. He burned with black fire until his corpse collapsed and only ashes remained. Over the long night, each Skaven lord and Skaven chieftain strode to the unholy pillar and placed their paw upon the warp-encrusted stone. Many did not survive, and a multitude of rat lords burned with unholy fire as the Horned One denied them as his chosen. Only 12 lived, with each of the Lords of Decay being imbued with an aura of dark magical energy, truly the blessing bestowed by the Horned Rat himself. From that day onward, the council has remained unchanged. Many Skaven have touched the pillar and died. Some have survived, but none have the skill and courage to defeat the first chosen of the Horned Rat. And so it came to pass that the Skaven were once more united under the rulership of 13.